Hey, you guys. So let's talk about problems with sleep. So the most common type of sleep problem would be insomnia. But there are other disturbances like sleep apnea or restless leg syndrome. But we're going to specifically talk about insomnia, as well as talk about strategies you can do to help get a better night's sleep on top of your sleep routine. So let's talk about what we exactly mean by insomnia. So there are four types. I think there are a few extra ones, but these are your main four. You have problems with sleep onset. So that's people who have trouble falling asleep. You have people who have issues with sleep maintenance. This is people who have no problem going to sleep, but they have trouble staying asleep. So they wake up several times in the middle of the night and have a difficulty going back to sleep. And then you have early sleep awakening. So those who you can go to sleep and you can stay asleep, but then you wake up earlier than your body is actually ready to. And then you can have the fourth type, which is unrestorative sleep. So this is the person who has no problem going to sleep, has no problem staying asleep, and maybe even get their full 7 to 8 or 9 hours of sleep. But when they wake up, they don't feel like they're well rested. This is more of sort of that wired, tired person. And when we talk about stress maintenance and we talk about why a lot of people feel wired and tired due to issues with their stress hormones, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But these are your four main types of insomnia. And we're going to talk a little bit about what to do for each of them. So, for people who are having problems falling asleep, there are a couple of things you can think about. So, number one is to go on a mental journey. What that basically means is, you think about something that is somewhat mundane, but something route, and allow your mind to just sort of wander, not necessarily worrying or fixating on something. But for example, one of the things I like to think about is my route around when I'm walking and the different routes I can take. I just sort of replay that in my mind and allow my body to naturally go to sleep. One of the things about falling asleep is you cannot think about falling asleep. You don't want to focus on, oh, am I going to get to sleep tonight? Sleep is going to be horrible. You don't want to have those negative thoughts. So, going on a mental journey, anything that can kind of take your mind off of the fact that you need to sleep, even if you're just thinking, I'm going to rest. Even if I don't fall asleep, it's okay. I'm going to just lay here and rest. And so, that's one strategy. You don't want to spend your time reflecting and ruminating. This is something I am totally guilty of. I get in bed and then with the intention of like playing out all my issues in the middle of the night. And something about nighttime that allows you to reflect, but can also really focus on the negative parts of things, all the things that could potentially go wrong. And so, again, you want to distract your mind from doing such things. So, listening to maybe a sleep story or doing some meditation, doing some deep breathing, things that sort of get your mind off the activities of the day. Removing all clocks. So, looking at a clock when you're having problems sleeping really just tends to make you ruminate more on not sleeping. So, removing all clocks, but not only for that purpose, so that you're not constantly checking the time, but also so that there's no light emitting from the clock. So, remember, you want to have a completely dark room, to the point where you can't see your hand in front of your eyes. That's how dark it should be. Um, then you also want to remove any EMF or Wi-Fi. So some people are super sensitive to EMF, and EMF can be exerted from your phone or from your tablets or any sort of Bluetooth devices. So you can take your phone out of your room. You can put it on airplane mode. You can schedule your Wi-Fi to turn off at the same time every night, so you're not running Wi-Fi. So not everybody is sensitive, but for those who are, this can be a game changer. Now, what happens if you're in bed and you've been in there for 20 minutes and you find yourself not going to sleep? So this is one of the uh, I guess I want to call it like the trick, but it's really one of the things that I can say for myself. It's sometimes hard. I feel like, oh, I just need to lay here longer and then I'll go to sleep. But really, you don't want to associate your bed with not sleeping. So if you're not sleeping, you need to get up and go someplace else and do something to help calm yourself, calm your mind, and get yourself in a place ready to be sleepy, and then come back to bed. So, what would that look like? So, for example, you're in bed, you've been there for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, trying to go to sleep, nothing's happening. You want to get your handy dandy red light or your blue blocking light and go into another room and do something to take your mind off of sleep. So, if that's reading, if it's journaling, if it's doing some deep breathing or some meditation, you want to do that, and you'll be surprised at how sleepy your body gets. And then once you feel sleepy, then go back to bed. This is a really good tactic. I find that it really works for me when I use it, but I also have to convince myself to get out of bed and go to another room. So, anyway, these are just some tips to help with falling asleep. So, issues for people who have a trouble staying asleep. So, a lot of people say, "Oh, I have no problem going to sleep, but I wake up several times in the middle of the night." So, one of the things that can help um, with that is number one, avoiding eating before bedtime. And that's because, if your body is focused on digestion when it should be focused on sleep, it can cause awakenings. It can also be a problem if you have issues with reflux. So you want to make sure that you're done digesting before you go to bed. You want to avoid fluids at least an hour before bedtime, or at least more than 8 ounces. So a 4 ounce cup of sleepy tea about 30 minutes before bedtime would be okay, but you don't want to, guzzle down a big uh, a glass of water because that can stimulate you to go to bed to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And then, with that being said, also medicines that can cause you to urinate. So, water pills like diuretics, Lasix, those medicines can lead to having to wake up multiple times in the night to urinate. So, you would rather take those medicines earlier in the day. You want to avoid alcohol, as I told you before. Sometimes it can make you tired. It sort of sedates your brain so that you can fall asleep, but it does cause sleep fragmentation. So waking up multiple times in the middle of the night. I'm thinking about journaling before bed. I talked about that earlier. Again, if your mind is really busy and are still trying to process a stressor, oftentimes if you go to bed with those things on your mind and not resolved, your body will continue to try to work through it while you're asleep and oftentimes wake you up. So if you can get some of those thoughts out and onto a piece of paper and kind of let them go, that may also help you release it so you can sleep through the night. Again, we talked about making sure that the room is dark, that you have an eye mask on, that the room temperature is appropriate. So oftentimes people will get hot in the middle of the night and that will cause them to wake up. Noise pollution. So if you need earplugs or if you need to do white noise to sort of block out surrounding sounds, and that also is a great thing. Oh, and I forgot the part about a dark room. So also, and noise pollution, these kind of go along with not watching TV or having a TV in your room. Again, your body will associate the bed with time to watch TV, not time to go to sleep. So that can also hinder staying asleep, particularly if you go to sleep with the TV on and there's noise in the background. It can wake you up. Again, mattresses, pillows, and sheets, telling you it's a game changer. You've got to be comfortable. Aromatherapy. So we talked about jasmine, lavender can help with sleep and staying asleep. Air quality, having a HEPA filter in your room or cleaning the vents frequently in your home to remove allergens. Mouth taping, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but breathing through your mouth can do a lot of things that disrupt your sleep. It can lead to frequent wakenings to urinate. It can cause nasal congestion so that you have problems breathing through your nose. Yes, breathing through your mouth can stimulate you to get congested in your nose. It can also lead to more infections and allergy symptoms. So, breathing through your nose is really important. It can also, mouth taping can help with snoring and other respiratory issues that may occur at night. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a coming slide. Removing phones from the room, again, Wi-Fi and EMF can affect staying asleep. Uh-oh. All right. So, what do you do if you have a bad night's sleep? So, you best of intentions, you've had a really bad night, you've only gotten 3 or 4 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, and you are waking up in the morning angry because you know you need to be sleeping, but you can't, or you didn't. So, here are some recommendations about how to handle that situation. Number one, you don't want to go to sleep. Um, Later on in the day. Okay. You don't want to like try to make up for that sleep because remember, we talked about that adenosine building up. If you don't have enough adenosine built up by the nighttime, you won't be sleepy. Even though your circadian rhythm is telling you you're sleepy, you're going to be competing with the fact that you don't have enough sleep pressure. You don't want to go to bed any earlier because if your body is normally ready to go to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock, and then you try to get in the bed at 6, you could just spend 2 hours waiting for your normal sleep time, or it can just throw your rhythm off. So it's better to just go to sleep at your same bedtime. Avoid napping. So, although that may seem counterintuitive, you again don't want to release any of that sleep pressure by napping. And if you do need to take a nap, make sure that it's early on in the day and that it is only 15 to 20 minutes. And then avoid using caffeine to keep yourself up. So, obviously, that is most people's default. If you feel tired and fatigued, you want to go for the caffeine. But if you do that, again, that can impair your ability to go to sleep later on that day. So you want to just start fresh the next day, is really the moral of the story. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the lighting because this is such a big impact, such a big impact on your melatonin levels. So, a couple of things that can enhance your melatonin levels is getting a half an hour's worth of morning sun in the morning and at noon. This just stimulates your melatonin to go down in the beginning of the day and sort of resets that clock for you, so that at dusk, when the sun goes down, your melatonin can respond appropriately. If you can't get morning sun, you could do a happy light or a bright light exposure, especially in the wintertime. For people who are prone to depression, having light therapy has been shown to be really beneficial. When you're using a blue blocking light, you want to use lamps instead of overhead lighting. This just has to do with how the pineal gland that releases melatonin, how it is affected by light coming from above versus light that's coming from like sort of ambient light. So keep that in mind to put your red bulbs in a lamp or of some sort, or like I said, a salt lamp, something like that. Again, you want to use red bulbs or 2700 Kelvin bulbs, which block blue light. You want to use lamps or candles in the evening. You want to remove all light sources. So I talked about having like clocks in your room. For me, I do have an air purifier in my room and it has a light, but it does have a nighttime setting. So I can push that and it will cut off all the lights on that machine. That my air purifier also creates some white noise in the background, so that can also be helpful. But my alarm system, which is also in my bedroom, also emits light. So I have to turn that on top of itself so I can block the light. So remember, removing all light sources, you want it to be completely dark in your room to get the optimal melatonin response. You want to avoid screens. So obviously, blue light coming from a computer or a TV can affect you. And if you're going to watch screens, you want to wear blue blocking glasses. These are like amber glasses that help to block the blue light, even though you're looking at a screen. So these are just some tools to help you maximize your melatonin. We talked about mouth breathing. So this is what I mean by mouth taping. I'm sure many of you guys have been wondering. So this is me, obviously, and I have placed a little piece of a surgical tape over my lips. This is 3M tape that you could just buy off of Amazon or a medical supply store. This tape is better than using other tapes because this is medical grade tape and it's for the skin, so you don't have to worry about it like pulling on your skin or pulling on the hair. But it's a great way to keep your mouth closed while you're sleeping. So humans were designed to breathe through their nose, not through their mouth. Mouth is for eating. Nose is for breathing. When you breathe through your nose, number one, your nose is designed to number one filter allergens, right? So that's why you have like those hairs in your nose. Your nose is pressurizes the air that comes into your body, so you get air deeper into your lungs. It also warms that air. It your breathing through your nose also affects the shape of your mouth, and your tongue placement. And so if you are breathing through your mouth, your nose stops working and your mouth shape actually will actually change. And so it's one of the reasons why a lot of people end up getting their molars taken out. It's a reason why people get really swollen nasal passages because they're no longer using their nose to breathe. And so the nasal passage can get very swollen. And so breathing through your nose is really important. There's a whole entire book on it I'll share with you if you're interested. But anyway, moral of the story is mouth taping can actually help this. It can improve snoring and sleep apnea, reduce nasal congestion. It also, breathing through your nose helps to prevent nighttime urination. That's just by its action on a very important hormone that called vasopressin. And it allows vasopressin levels when you are breathing through your mouth. It decreases vasopressin levels and causes you not to reabsorb water in your kidneys. And then it causes you to want to pee. So mouth taping helps with that. And then it also improves other symptoms with mood and ADHD. So again, mouth taping is just something you can consider to doing. All right. So say you've tried all of these things and it's that, you're still having problems with sleep. I will tell you personally, I am a lover of botanicals to help me sleep. I've tried so many different types, and there are so many different botanicals that work with sleep. But I'll just go over a few here. So oftentimes people think about using melatonin, but the truth of the matter is melatonin is really great to be used if you're doing like, jet lag. It's really great for jet lag or for people who like work nighttime shifts, where your melatonin, your melatonin might be suppressed, or your melatonin is low because of the time of the day it is, and you're a night worker, or you've traveled from one time zone to another time zone. So melatonin is really great there, but may not be as great for just your average sleeping. So this is why I tend to like some of the relaxation botanicals better. So 5-HTP is a hormone that helps to increase your serotonin levels, which is a chemical messenger that affects your emotions, behavior, your appetite, and your sleep. So 5-HTP is a great one to use. And then passion flower is another one, can be pretty strong. But passion flower um, is another ingredient that I find to be helpful for sleep. Magnesium is sort of my go-to because magnesium has so many great benefits, not just sleep, but also muscle relaxation. It can help with restless leg. It helps with constipation. It helps with muscle cramps. So that includes menstrual cramps. So magnesium is one of my favorite go-tos. In addition to uh, vitamin C can also help, and calcium. And then there are other botanicals, my favorite being ashwagandha, which is an adaptogen, which basically helps to modulate how your body functions. But one of the reasons I like ashwagandha is because it's really good for those people who are wired and tired. Again, we're going to talk about cortisol and its effects in another module, but ashwagandha is a great sort of balancing botanical, um, and I think is one of my go-tos and favorites. But then there's other things. There's L-theanine, phosphorylated serine. There's more than I've put on this paper. But really what I tend to go for is my first line of defense is typically magnesium. And then I go to like a mixture of botanicals. So something that may have L-theanine in it, passion flower, and 5-HTP, and a little bit of ashwagandha. So there are blends that I find to be very helpful. And it's really just a hit or miss. You find the one that works for you, and you stick with it. And then I talk a lot about sleep tracking. All of those images I showed you guys earlier were of my tracking my sleep. The thing that I use to track my sleep is an Aura ring, which is more accurate than some of the other devices like the Apple Watch. There are definitely other tracking devices, but I just like the Aura ring. It tests not just sleep, but also your heart rate variability. and so many other things. You can use it to track activity. You can see here that is showing you my stages of sleep. Remember, if you guys remember from the other image, the white is awake, and then the light blue is your REM sleep, and then the darker blue is your light sleep, and then the dark blue is your deep sleep. And so you can see how you move through, or how much of your sleep over time is dedicated to each of those, and you can actually monitor to see if the interventions you're making are making a difference. You can also get a sleep score, which does a calculation of your heart rate variability, your respirations, and your temperature, and it comes out with the sleep score. So it's something to help you track. And as you see here, over the course of the last several days, you can see how my sleep score is actually increased. So you can see if your interventions are actually helping. So Lastly, I just wanted to leave you guys with a couple of resources for some of the things that I've talked about. So, we talked about an air purifier, we talked about blue light filters, we've talked about blue blocking glasses, talked about meditation apps and sleep apps that do sleep story. We talked about the 3M tape, we talked about EMF blockers, and then I talked about the chronotype test. So, all of this is in your module, but just things to keep a look at. Again, that wraps up Sleep Life for now, but I hope you guys, if you guys have questions, that you feel free to ask. And I hope you guys are getting a great night's sleep. Talk to you guys soon.